Good morning, I'm Chris Fox, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about the concept of 10x thinking. 10x thinking is a religion in Silicon Valley and San Francisco, which is the hub of the startup world. And it's something that I was steeped in very closely when I worked for years as a software engineer. And part of the reason I think that I've become so successful as an author is because of this process and how it's affected my thinking, and the fact that I carried that away from the startup world and into the author world. So what is it and how can you apply it? Well, in January of 2015, I was on a podcast called Rocking Self-Publishing, and the topic was 10x thinking. And it might be worth a listen. It's like 45 minutes long. You guys can check it out on Simon's site, rockingselfpublishing.com, if you're interested. But in a nutshell, what we talked about is you needed to set yourself a crazy, audacious goal. So what happens all the time at startups, and most of the major companies began this way from LinkedIn to Facebook, is you would think about a number that you felt was realistic. Like, let's say maybe you want to sell 1,000 books in a month. That sounds crazy, right? 1,000 books, that's a lot of books. What if you took that number that you feel you might not be able to achieve and you 10x'd it? You want to sell 10,000 books in a month. Now that's really crazy. Now at first you recoil from that, because you realize there's no way you could achieve that. You barely were sure that you could hit 1,000. So what's the value of setting yourself an impossible goal that you might fail at? Well, it changes the way that your mind works. So you've heard me mention in other videos, you have something called the reticular activating system, which is the part of your brain that is trained to notice relevant details. Everything from specific colors to things that'll help you get ahead in your author career. If you feed it the right information and you tell it what is important, that reticular activating system is going to help you move towards whatever your crazy, audacious goal is. So getting back to that interview in January of 2015, I said that I wanted to sell initially 60,000 books, which is a high number and I thought was probably impossible to achieve. And I multiplied that in my head by 10, and I got a number of 600,000 books. Now, I knew that was impossible. I knew there was no way that I could sell 600,000 books, but I came at my author career like I was trying to sell 600,000 books. And that taught me a couple of very important things. I started to learn how to build an author brand and how that could help me sell more books. And I also started to realize that if I wanted to sell that quantity of books, I needed to write more books. So 5,000 words per hour, and all of the subsequent writing books came about as a direct result of this 10x thinking. I started really trying to understand and kind of, life hack the author process and get it to a point where I could sell that many books. And at the end of 2015, I had sold 29,000 books, which, don't get me wrong, that is a massive number of books. I'm extremely happy with those sales, but obviously it wasn't even the original goal, much less the 10x goal. But I wouldn't change it because it had such that profound impact on my mindset that here I am the next year and I'm on track to sell over 100,000 books this year. I didn't hit the goal that I was after, but because I was trying and swinging, so hard for the stands, for the bleachers, even though I fell short, I still accomplished a massive amount and learned a massive amount. And so probably for 2018, I'm going to try and sell 1 million books in a year. Again, sounds impossible. But if I keep coming at this and trying to grow in these exponential leaps, who knows what's possible? I've accomplished more than I ever thought I'd be able to do in the last couple of years. And I did that the couple of years before that as well. So before I got into this author gig, I went from making $12 an hour in a collections center, harassing people for their car payments, to making six-figure at a startup, which I then, a couple of years later, quit to take a pay raise to become a full-time author. You can do some really nutty stuff, but before you can do any of that, you've got to conceive of things that are much, much greater than you think that you are capable of. And it is only when you begin to accept that you can accomplish great things that other people around you aren't doing that you're actually going to get out there and do the work to accomplish that. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is 10x thinking in a nutshell. I hope that you start employing this in your life. I would encourage you to make a little mental exercise and look at some of those metrics. Like, how many books are you writing this year? Could you 10x that? And maybe the answer is no. Maybe it needs to be a different metric. But find some area. Maybe it's your sales, where you can try to 10x it and see what that does to your thinking over the next month or two, and see if maybe that helps you propel a little bit closer towards your goal. Because if it's anything like the journey I've been on, I suspect that it will.